Are you a confident quilter? And how do you know that you are a confident quilter? When did that happen? Think back. When did you feel like you were more confident in your ability to quilt? What was the transition? As I thought about it, I thought about when I felt comfortable making a quilt for someone else. I felt, okay, I can do this for someone. Will they like it? I think they will because I've gotten better at it. The results are improving. So I felt more comfortable. I was more confident. Am I 100% confident? I don't think we ever are because if you're like me, you're always growing. One of the other indicators for me in building my confidence with quilting was when I became a quilt designer. Can I share a secret with you? Let me know in the chat if you want to hear a secret about one of the big things that helped me build my confidence. Hey, Wilda is here. We were just talking about you, Wilda. If you don't know, there is a Quilt Conversations live community, and those ladies are in the Zoom room watching Quilt Conversations live together as a community, and they're having pre-show conversations, which we did. And after the show, we're going to have a post-show conversation. So we were all wondering, where is Wilda? Where is Wilda? There she is. Cindy is here. Welcome from Tampa, Florida. Welcome, welcome. So, yes, I will share, Cassie and Jacqueline, secrets. Okay, so here's a secret. I take risks. If you don't know that already, I take risks. And I applied to be an ambassador for Island Boutique Fabrics. I didn't know what that entailed. All I knew is that I love fabric. Who loves fabric? I do. I like boutiques. So it was a no brainer. I applied and we'll see what happens, right? So I didn't know that it involved designing quilts. Now, I would make my own quilts. I love the quilt block. I'd make several of them, put them together. That's how I made quilts. But actually writing a pattern was different. Designing, different. And that's what Island Boutique wanted. They wanted their ambassadors to not only use their fabric, but to use their fabric to design new quilts. So I took on the challenge. And the other thing that happened was that Island Boutique was the gateway for me to design patterns for magazines. Now, there's one thing about designing a quilt for yourself, for the neighbor's newborn next door, or maybe for a parent, a sibling. But it's a whole nother thing when you design for a publication or for a fabric company and they want pattern instructions and you've never done it before. Never done it before. So I had to be brave, step out of my comfort zone. But one thing that I did to help increase my confidence in designing was that one, I got a tool. I got the necessary tool to help me, and that was EQ8. That was a big confidence booster because I was comfortable with computers and software. And so I said, okay, I can start designing with EQ8. That was a big change. But once I designed, I had to make the quilt. I had to make it. And the fabric companies that would sponsor a quilt design for magazine publications, fabric companies, they would supply the fabric. I would say, I need this much fabric, and they would ship it to me because their fabric was going to be featured in a magazine. But I didn't want to cut the fabric because I wasn't sure that my estimates on fabric were correct. I wasn't sure about whether or not I could stitch the design because it's all brand new. It's one thing to use the software, right? Design it, it looks beautiful on screen. It's another thing to cut the fabric and stitch it out. So, what do you think I did? Can you guess? I designed it, the design was approved, I got the fabric from the fabric company. Now I need to make the quilt because there's a deadline. Not only do I have to design it, write the pattern, but I have to stitch the quilt and I have to ship it to the magazine for them to take pictures, right? So Marsha says whole cloth quilt. Nope, nope. I had to piece it. I had to know that the instructions I was giving to the magazine that they're going to print were going to be useful, right? That they were going to work. So, what do you think I did? Who can guess? Well, I, in the beginning, would make the quilt design, the blocks, the sashing, the border, everything. I would make a whole separate quilt top before I would cut into the designer fabric, the new fabric line. I would take whatever fabric I had on hand and make the quilt top one time before I made the quilt for the magazine. I had to test the whole thing. And I did that, I don't know for how many quilts. I did that for 5 or 6 quilts that were in magazines. But I couldn't do it anymore. I could not make 2 versions of a quilt for every single magazine because it took weeks to do. It took weeks. And I finally said, well, wait a minute. You've been designing, you've been estimating the fabric, you've done it. It's worked out because you've made the quilt top, you've sewn it together. That increased my confidence. When I stitched out 2 quilt tops for several pattern designs, by the 6th, I can't remember exactly, it might be the 5th or 6th time that I stitched 2, that I finally said, you don't have to do it anymore. You can trust that you know how to design. You can trust that your estimates are close. Maybe there's a little extra fabric, not less, a little bit extra. You can do it. The only thing I do now is I will stitch the individual blocks to double check, but I don't stitch out the whole quilt anymore because my confidence increased. Yes, practice. It was practice. Exactly, Beth. As a result of the practice, my confidence increased. So, if you're not a beginner quilter and you've been quilting for a long time, I just shared my story. What was the turning point for you that said, you know what, I'm no longer a beginner? I can try more challenging quilts because I know how to stitch a 1/4 inch seam. I know how to stitch flying geese blocks. I know how to stitch half square triangles. Now, of course, we don't do this alone. There's some parts that we do alone. I use that word do a lot. I'm going to use it a lot more because I want to share another story with you. Okay. Don't raise your hand if you have done this. I did this last Sunday. Couple things happened. One, I was in a hurry to get to church. So my coat closet by the door, I have shoes in there. I knew what shoes I wanted. I just picked them up off the shelf. I didn't even look at them. I just picked them up, put them on, ran outside, got in the car, drove to church. When I got out of the car, I heard something I thought I dropped. You know how you can hear something drop to the ground? So I looked down and I looked down at my feet and I had on 2 different shoes. Have you done that before? I had on two different shoes and I wanted to show you the photo. I forgot to pull it up. But I thought, "Oh, I'll just go change." I'm like, "Well, you can't because you are not home. You are 40 minutes from home. You need to wear what you have." So, I just walked in, and I walked in with 2 different shoes on. They felt exactly the same, and in fact, they're the same brand, they're just different styles. That's why I didn't even notice that they were different. So, sometimes we just have to keep going, right? Even when we do something that we didn't anticipate, is there something that we can learn from it? And I learned from that that it's okay to wear 2 different shoes. It's a new style, right? And of course, I did anyone notice? I didn't wait for anyone to notice, Lori. I just confessed. As soon as I got to the door, the greeter, she said hello, and I said hello. Guess what I did? I said, "Look." And then at the end of church, I was talking with some ladies, chit chatting, and I say, "Hey, ladies, guess what I did?" And now I'm bragging about it. I'm excited. I got on 2 pairs of shoes that are different. Yes, come as you are, exactly. And then it became a point of conversation, right? So it was really fun. Now, the other thing that happened at church that actually pertains to our topic about confidence, right? And in some ways, even wearing 2 different shoes was a certain level of confidence to feel like, what's the big deal? I have on 2, I have shoes. That's a good thing, right? They're different. Okay, no problem. It's not like I walked out with my slippers, right? I don't know. Barefoot, who knows? Sometimes people do go barefoot, but does it matter? No. So anyway, a couple last Friday, 2 days before I went to church went to church with 2 different shoes. I went to a um, one day worship session. We had a guest teacher and musician worshiper who came from Colorado to share with us about worship. It was wonderful. And the reason I share this is because he asked the question. He said, "What's the difference between discipleship and mentorship? What's the difference?" You can answer that question for yourself or look it up. But the one thing that he sparked in me was the side of mentorship because his discussion went to whether it's discipleship or mentorship, it involves at least 2 people working together to accomplish something, right? So I thought about you ladies. And he said this, I take no credit for it, but I think it's wonderful, so I want to share it with you because it applies to so many things in our life. And he said this. He said, "When there's a discipleship interaction or a mentorship interaction, the first thing is that one person is doing and the other person is watching. So I do, you watch." We're going to use me as an example, but this could be anyone, right? I quilt, I free motion quilt, I ruler quilt. You watch my videos here on YouTube, Facebook, right? Then after you watch, you say, "Wow, I like what they are doing. I'm going to follow. I'm going to follow them to see what else I can learn." Because when we first watch, we're watching something perhaps we don't know anything about, and we want to learn about it. And then when we follow, we realize that we are learning something that we didn't know. So, what I didn't know, I now do know. And if you stick around long enough, you decide not only is that person doing, meaning I do, now you want to do it. So, those are the first 3 phases of becoming confident. First, we see someone else doing it. we like it, we want to watch them do it so that we can learn. We learn by watching, we learn by following their example. Now, sometimes this can work in a negative sense, right? Heard that expression? What is it? Bad company spoils good habits. I think that's it. Who knows the correct way to say that? But no matter what we're watching, who we're following, they will influence us. So it does matter what we watch and what we listen to, right? In quilting, if we're watching a tutorial, we've never seen it before, we want to know more about it, so we follow and we watch that person over and over again till we get the courage, right, to do number 3. I do quilting. I do ruler quilting, free motion quilting. Now you are doing it. Many of you are doing it. You are learning. You're in the first stage of actually doing what you didn't know how to do. If you take a class, whether it's online, in person, virtual, not only are you doing it, now you do it and I watch. Because by this time, you have developed some skills, but you know that you can get better, that there's something missing, so that when your mentor, your teacher watches you, they can help set your course. They can help you onto the path to where you want to go. Is it successfully finishing a quilt? Successfully stitching curved seams? That would be me. I'm still learning how to do that. I need to practice. But when I have a teacher watch me, they can see how to course correct, how to get me to the place where I want to be sooner without spending days and hours and weeks and months and years or giving up, right? That's number 4. What about number 5? Okay. Let's see. Lori says something before I continue. Oh, thank you, Lori. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. All right. Anything else that I missed in the chat? Okay. Did anyone notice? That was before. Oh, so Beth, you did go with your bedroom slippers. I missed that one. Okay. Wow. All right. It makes me think about having an extra pair of shoes in the car. Who does that? Does anybody do that? Extra pair of shoes in the car? So we're on number 4. You do, I watch. You do, and I help. A mentor, a teacher, someone that is perhaps discipling you in your faith, they're going to help you stay on course, to help you reach your goal. Now, what is important with number 4 and number 5? You ladies know this. Practice, practice, practice. But adding to that practice is getting the help that you need. Someone with eyes to see what needs to be course corrected, what's missing from the equation. Because sometimes, and let me know in the chat if this is you, that you're doing something, maybe it's cooking, it could be anything, right? And something just doesn't seem right and you don't know. And maybe it's this recipe that a friend gave you, or it's been in your family and you're making it, but some reason it's not coming out. So you call up that friend or that relative who has done it before. You tell them what you've done, and then they say, I know what you did. You forgot to do this, whatever that is, right? That is so important. Sometimes we will try and skip from 1 to 4 or start at 3. She can do it, I can do it, no problem, right? And then for some reason, that first blouse that I stitched way back when that was a long sleeve that ended up being a 3/4. I don't know what I did wrong. I would have to ask someone who has done it before, why and how did I end up with a 3/4 sleeve when it was supposed to be a full length, right? I skipped some steps. So that's when we don't want to try something that is too advanced, right? We want to start in the beginning, right? In the beginning. So where are you on this list when it comes to quilting? And maybe it varies depending on the skill that you want to learn with inside of quilting, right? So like I'm learning curves, which is different than free motion. So for curves, I would be at number between 2 and 3. Now I've done it several times. I'm really trying to get to 4 where someone can watch me and I can ask more questions, right? So I've decided to learn from Latifa Safir, who does amazing quilt designs with curves. And I can't wait for her to help me, for me to take a class, for her to watch me so that I can improve my curve piecing. And she's already given me one tip that I didn't even realize made a difference. I was using batik fabrics for curves, and she's like, no, that's not a good idea. It's not a good idea because it is a tightly woven fabric. I didn't even think about that the type of fabric matters when you're piecing curves. It's not to say it can't be done, but it makes it harder. So that was one thing that she has already told me, right? So I'm going to make that adjustment, right? So she's number 5. She helped me with that tip. Eventually, we all want to get to you do and your teacher or I cheer. We celebrate your movement from beginner to more confident quilter. All right. Okay, that's pretty long, Kathy. I can't put that up on the screen. Um, but if you do it in bite sizes, maybe I can. She says, totally agree with you. Having someone to watch, they can see what you're doing wrong when you can't. Exactly. I practice free motion feathers every day. Awesome. Practice, practice. Awesome. So, what are the ways in which we could implement these things, especially 4, 5, and 6? We know we can take a class, like I mentioned. We can ask a friend at a guild who you know is more proficient at this particular topic. But one thing that I thought was very interesting at this one-day conference where he talked about these steps of watching, following, helping, and the transition from the student watching the teacher to the teacher watching the student, whether it's mentorship or discipleship. Um, in the end, for his particular um, t- talk, he talked about unity. So here's what he said. He said, when we all practice, he's talking about musicians, whether it's vocalist or guitarist or pianist, when we all practice separately on our own, hone our skill, our gifts, our talents, the things that God has given us the ability to learn and to improve. But when we get together, because we have practice, instead of us having a practice session, even though we are practicing together, it goes smoothly because each person has done their part. And I thought about that in terms of a quilting community. We're going to be in a community with their all different levels, right? But if each of us are working on that part, whatever level we are, when we get together, we can have such amazing and wonderful interactions. And that's one thing that he said, is that when musicians practice and they get to separately and then get together to practice, the smoothness of the practice changes. It becomes a time of enjoyment. Now, go back to when you were in elementary school or middle school, and maybe you were in a music class where they were playing instruments, and some could play and some couldn't. And then when they tried to play together, what did that sound like? What did that sound like? Was it harmonious? Was it harmonious, or was it just a lot of noise? Right? So that's one thing that I hope and always would like to have in a quilting community, as each of us start to learn, start to practice, start to hone our skills and share with each other, just not teacher to student, but peer to peer. We can encourage each other, right? When we get together and we have each been doing what it takes for us to enjoy quilting, learning different things, sharing it with others, it becomes this wonderful chorus, this harmonious chorus of fellowship. I don't know. Do you ladies, am I reaching? I don't think I'm reaching. I think it's something that we can do. Um, Especially when it's something that we all enjoy, right? So, if you haven't heard by now, I am so excited and blessed that I have been published in a feature article in Quilt Folk magazine. It came out this month, Quilt Folk magazine. And one of the quilts that's featured in it is this one behind me, the Beautiful Sister quilt. If you don't know the story behind this quilt, it's really a community quilt. How is it a community quilt? One, it's my sister. That's the first community, my immediate family. That silhouette is my sister, right? Her name is Roberta. We call her Cookie. It's her high school photo. And how it expanded beyond my immediate family is that many people and myself look at that photo as a photo of from way back. Now I'm laughing because this same guest that came to my church for the worship, he asked us in the audience of a certain age, and he said, "Those of you who are from the 1900s." And when I heard that, I thought, 1900s? I'm like, wait a minute. I was born in the 1900s. He made it sound like it was 1800. I felt so old. But yeah, in the 1900s, the hairstyle, the afro, was very popular. So there are a lot of people that resonate with this photo. They think of singers like Nina Simone and others, and an era when women wore, Black women specifically, wore afros. And so, from my sister to a larger community, and the quilt was designed specifically with a company that sells African print fabric. So I designed it not only for my sister for the silhouette, but I also designed it for use with African print fabric. And specifically, one of the quilt blocks was designed rail fence for beginners. I wanted the quilt to be beginner friendly. It first came out in the public at QuiltCon in 2023, I think it was. And now it's being featured and was photographed by the photographer, Miss Halloway. She photographed it here in town in Fredericksburg. And she got a beautiful picture of it. And I'm excited that it's in Quilt Folk, that it is, from my point of view, a community quilt. I designed it specifically, not just for my sister, but it's her face, but also beginner friendly. But it also, the Beautiful Sister block itself helps you increase your confidence because it requires some important cutting skills. So you learn that as well. So I have decided to celebrate the beautiful sister by having a beautiful sister quilt together to help with building community. Now, a lot of ladies have been waiting for this for like a year and a half. And I thought this was perfect timing. It's in Quilt Folk magazine. It features the quilt. It talks about the history of the quilt, etc., etc. And I thought, why don't we quilt it together? Because this has been as much as part of my journey as it is the journey of many other ladies. And so I was excited to put this together for a special event. Now, if you've already taken any of my classes, you know they're always jam packed with tips, tricks, and techniques for finishing quilts and knowing how to start from the very beginning and stitching it out to the very end. So it's going to be 6 sessions, once a week for 6 weeks. We're going to have one break in the middle. We're going to start from the beginning and go all the way to the end, quilting it. And I want you to be a part of it. I want you to be a part of the quilt together. We're going to learn how to cut the fabric with a special ruler. It's a Creative Grids ruler. It's called Itty Bitty Eights. Wilda introduced it to me actually. Wilda has already made two. Or have you finished, Wilda? She's making it for twin sisters at her church. How wonderful is that, ladies? Now, Wilda, could you name the name of the ruler again? I have it written down, but I have not uh, wrote it down right here in front of me. I have already forgotten. I think it's called Itty Bitty Eights. It's a Creative Grids ruler specifically for cutting strips or fabric with an 1/8 inch increment. Hopefully I said that right. That's understandable. Oh, Terry, thank you. Now, a lot of ladies have already seen the magazine, and I haven't seen it yet. I have not seen it, so I don't know which photo they used. And okay, ladies, yes, I want to look good. So, as a photographer, I was nervous about how well the photographer would do. And truth be told, I am very self conscious about others taking my pictures because I'm a professional photographer and I know the correct settings for my skin tone. And most people do not know how to do that. And so I always come out looking not myself, put it that way. So Wilda says they're still in process. Okay. Awesome, Wilda. Itty bitty eighth is what that ruler is. So special ruler, we're going to go over that in it. We're going to go step by step on how to make the beautiful sister block. Now, some just want to make the block. They don't want to make the whole quilt. It's really up to you. But in this quilt together, from start to finish, we're going to go through everything. We're going to finish the block. We're going to learn how to trim her, how to choose the fabric for her, the tools that I love. And one, if you don't have this, it's a Creative Grids 20 by 20 ruler. The block is 15.5 inches, and I love having a squaring ruler that's bigger than my block. And so we talk about how I trim blocks to make sure that they're square. We're going to go through that. All of the tips that I have learned over the years from making quilts, not only for myself, but for national publications. You're going to learn all of those tips. Once a week on Thursdays, we're going to meet for an hour, hour and a half, maybe two, depending upon how many questions you have, because there's always going to be a Q&A at the end of each session. I can't wait. I know a lot of ladies had signed up. They were waiting for this to happen. And this is the second one. Oh, Terry, thank you. I feel so relieved. Thank you. Awesome. And so Wilda says that when she finishes her quilt, she is going to give them a copy of the magazine. Oh, wonderful, Wilda. Yay. Awesome. And not only are we going to talk about the fabric, talk about preparations for the fabric, cutting tips, piecing tips. And sometimes we think, even when we're not a beginner, we think, well, what else can I learn? I know I know how to quilt a quilt. I know how to sew. But let me tell you, there's always one or two tips that you will receive that you never knew about. Matter of fact, I think Jacqueline sent me a message on Facebook just this week. There's a tip in one of the videos, which I'm not going to share. Do you remember, Jacqueline, what that was? Yes, Marsha, you can go get the magazine. Go to quiltfolk.com. And then if you use Geraldine, let me go back to this so you can see it. Use Geraldine QF35. You'll get 20% off the magazine. Quiltfolk.com. Okay. Let's see. Oh, thank you, Lori. She put in more information. Go to the website. So the quilt together is also going to include, like I mentioned, I did a whole series of videos on quilting the quilt behind me from beginning to end. Which you'll see in the magazine, they featured some of the details in this quilt. In the hair, I stitched the words love, peace, hope, and I show you in the making of and quilting of this how I did it, how I selected thread. Right now, what video you're watching, I keep pointing the wrong direction, is the session where I audition designs. I just don't fly by the seat of my pants. I plan. I have a quilting planner. I plan. So I go through the whole thing of how I plan the thread selection, the ruler quilting designs, the whole thing, the story behind the quilting. Every quilt that I quilt has a story behind it that helps me choose the machine quilting patterns that I will use to quilt it. And I always test it out ahead of time. And that's what you're seeing now. I am testing out designs. I'm testing out the thread. I'm testing out the rulers, everything to see what works and if I can do it. Okay, so Jacqueline says it was a question about do you send out to a long arm or do you quilt it yourself? Were we talking about pinning? How do you pin your quilt if you're basting it? What direction? I think that was the tip that you said you got from one of the videos recently. So yeah, Jacqueline, thank you for that reminder. What else? So everything, we're going to go through it week by week by week with so many tips. How to pick thread based on several different colors of fabric, color values. Do I want to stitch one thread or multiple threads? And how will I do that? How will I combine them? How do I stabilize the quilt? We're going to go through the whole thing. A quilt-along, as I talked about earlier. When I do and you watch, wonderful. When I do and you follow, fantastic. When I do and you do, even better. But what's better than that is when you do it and I watch. It's when you do it and I help. It's when you finish and I can clap, I can cheer, I can say fantastic, goal reached. And that's what the Quilt Together is all about. is watching me and getting to the point where you are doing all the work. Oh, thanks, Lori. I'm glad it sounds fabulous. If you want to know more about the quilt together, just scan this QR code so that you can find out how to join. And if you have already purchased the pattern, because this is me fulfilling my promise to those who purchased the pattern back at QuiltCon and online, send me proof of purchase by email and you get a reduced price to the event. I'm almost giving it away. If you've already purchased the pattern, I'm practically giving you 6 weeks of quilting education for almost free. So send me an email and let me know. If you have not purchased the pattern already, the Beautiful Sister quilt pattern that's featured in Quilt Folk, you can get the pattern and do the quilt together. Again, I'm giving this away practically. Now, things do cost money, right? It costs money for me to put it on. I have to pay for certain things, but it's not about the cost, right? It's about the community. It's about us getting together and helping each other, right? That's what it's about. So I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. It starts September 4th. September 4th. Any questions about this quilt together? Any questions? Let me know if you have any questions about it. I do want to share with you. Again, we talked about the doing part, right? I want to show you my overhead camera that one of the things that I do, we talked about practice, right? I practice, practice, practice. So remember the story about what helped me build my confidence when I was designing for magazines is that I started off by making the entire quilt and then I would make the block only. So for the Beautiful Sister block, I tested the block, I, I think, what, 4 times before I came to a final design. I've stitched it out. I even practiced the quilting, the different quilting techniques. So the final quilt that's behind me, the quilting in it is inspired by my practice sessions, which is what I will encourage you to do. And remember how I said I stitched out the words? Here is love. It's backwards here because it's the back. But I practiced it before I went to the quilt, to the big quilt. I made a block only. Maybe you can see it here. I'm going to try and hold it up. There it is. All right. Now I needed to practice how to stitch the afro. There's love there. How did I want to stitch it? What thread weight? Am I going to add ruler quilting? Am I going to stitch on the face or stitch on the outline? These are all the questions that I want to not only ask, but I want to practice in something that is real, but not the real quilt. So I don't sell rulers. I do have a few quilting tools on my website. You can check the link at the top of the chat there on YouTube. That will take you to my website, and I have a few tools, but I don't necessarily sell rulers. Yeah. So that's one. And I don't waste anything. So I said, okay, let me try another ruler that will give me a different look. Again, I stitched the hair, stitched all around with the same ruler, trying different things. I don't know if you can see anything in the back, but just very little. Trying different fabrics on the back. Does it matter? What does it look like? All of these are tips that I will share in the quilt together, the Beautiful Sister quilt together. Another question I ask myself is, what if I don't want to do custom quilting? I want to do edge to edge quilting. What will it look like if I stitch over the face? Can I stitch it in such a way that I'm not stitching through her eyes? How do I plan that out? I ask these questions. So the hair is not stitched separately. This is full edge to edge ruler quilting, right? This is what it looks like in the back. Okay. So all the ladies that have been taking ruler classes with me, this is when your techniques, whether it's the feathers we did recently or other technique classes that we have taken together, this will be your opportunity, right? To try these different techniques. Building our confidence comes with practice. It also comes with getting help, like we talked about. So before I leave you, I want to remind you that there are all kinds of resources available to you that I have created, whether it's the online courses, there's always a course of the month. There's free motion quilting and ruler quilting video courses you can take, and there's virtual. There are several virtual classes coming up. One is coming next Saturday, which is a bit different from what we've been talking about, but it's something that I've enjoyed lately. And I decided I wanted to have a block party, a summer block party, and that is painting on fabric. And that's something that I started after a cruise. We did a cruise last year to the Caribbean, and we did some painting on fabric and a sashiko, a pattern, and we hand stitched it after. So I've taken some of those techniques from the sashiko watercolor, and I'm using quilt block stencils, and I'm painting fabric with Inktense pencils. And once I do that, I start to apply different techniques, again, getting better at techniques. I'm overlapping techniques, meaning I don't waste my effort. I say, okay, I haven't used this ruler, or I want to use this technique that I'm practicing, and I will put two things that I'm learning together. And that's what you see here. This is a squiggle ruler. And one of the techniques that I love to teach is showing you how to quilt with very little to no marking, especially for quick edge to edge quilting. So that's what I did here. I haven't finished this one. It's almost done. I'm working on the binding, but I love this quilting. Isn't that gorgeous? Look at those waves. And I did not have to mark. I just used the lines on the ruler. I love the squiggle ruler. Quick and easy, fast quilting. I love it, love it, love it. So we are going to the Quilt Conversations live community. They're getting a preview of next week's virtual class. Because they are a monthly member, I decided that I was going to give a preview to them on how to use Inktense pencils on fabric. So we're going to do that tomorrow. Tomorrow we meet for our monthly get together. It's an open sew, and we're going to talk about our Quilt-along. We're going to also paint some fabric if they want to, and then we're going to talk about some other things. But we're going to use stencils to create beautiful quilt blocks on fabric. It's so fun. It's so easy. I love it, love it, love it. However, in next week's virtual class, which is 4 hours, there's a workbook. Next week, the ladies in that workshop, virtual workshop, will get this workbook where they have quilt blocks with the color palette. They get to preview and create designs before they go to fabric so that they can be successful in painting the fabric. Now, of course, they can print this out multiple times, do it over and over again to practice blending colors so they get the results that they want. So we're going to do that. let me show you a preview of some of what we're going to do. We're going to start small, right? We're going to start small with one block, learn how to paint it, learn how to add colors, and then we're going to try a couple of blocks and just do it very simple and basic. So this is a mug rug, right? Mug rugs are fantastic. Thank you, Jacqueline. I'm glad you like it. And then from there, we are going to go to the bigger ones, right? Four up, it's whatever they want to do. It's going to be their choice on what they want to color, but I'm going to show you how to shade, how to add multiple colors next Saturday. This fabric started off white. These are all colored. Then this one was the same thing. It was all white, but I also colored the background. So you can do as much color or as little color as you want. It is so much fun. I just love it. And I'll show you how to do all the shading to get depth and dimension. Yeah, lots of fun next Saturday. And then the bonus, including the workbook, I'm going to add how to do this in next Saturday's workshop. This is a bonus. How to add these patterns to your fabric. Isn't that pretty? I just love it. And yes, they are stencils. And so the options are limitless, right? So much fun. So much fun. And if you're wondering, will it bleed? You heat set it, you can wash it, you can add more color if you don't like what you see, and it won't turn to mud, which is what I love. Yep, fantastic. We're going to have so much fun. I can't wait. That's the block party. Ladies, I hope this discussion has been an encouragement to you, no matter where you are on this list of doing the work to build your confidence. It doesn't matter if you're at the very beginning that you're watching, if you're at the next step, you're following and you're ready to get started. Maybe you have surpassed those and you're starting to do it. You're starting to do the things that you've been watching someone else do. It doesn't have to be me, it could be anyone, right? Maybe now that person is watching you. They are watching you because you have taken the deep dive. You jumped off the deep end of the pool and you're doing it. And now that you are in the deep end, they are helping you. Receive that help, receive the suggestions. You will get better no matter what it is. And then let's cheer your success. Every step forward is worth cheering. We don't grow by leaps and bounds. We grow by little steps. Step by step by step by step, right? Okay. I'm going to say, yes, you agree. You agree. All right, ladies. It's been a blast. Thank you to Sandra. Love that you're here. Welcome, welcome. I hope you ladies will join the Beautiful Sister Quilt together, or come to a virtual class, or maybe see me in person. I have some in person events coming up, which I can't share just yet, but they are coming. It doesn't matter what format it is. I want to spend time with you so that we can enjoy quilting together. Now, before I sign off, do we have any questions about anything? Did I miss something in the chat because I was busy talking away? Any questions, ladies? And thank you for all the congratulations on Quilt Folk. I'm really excited and thankful for this opportunity to share my love and passion for quilting, but also how it has impacted my life personally. And this is one of the photos that they took of me with this. It was important to me to include my family. So my sister is in it, as you know, but this tote carrying bag is named after my mom. It's called Aunt Baby's Bag. It's a pattern that I made because she loves bags. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to name this after my mom. So when they came to my home to take pictures and they asked what I wanted in the photo, I said, oh, I want Aunt Baby's bag in there. Yes, I want Aunt Baby's bag. And this particular one, let me turn on my overhead camera because I think this is important. And I'm going to share more once I get my copy of the magazine. So next time we meet, I'll share more about these particular things that they talked about and expand on them. So I think it might make the article a little bit deeper for you when I do that. So this is what's on it. Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. Yeah. He gives us desires, and it was God who gave me the desire to connect with women through quilting. First at my church here in Fredericksburg when I first moved here. That's how it began. And then as I traveled the world as a photographer, I saw that sewing was a way that women connected. I was not an avid sewer or quilter prior to meeting women like Wilda and others at my church here in Fredericksburg. So if you ladies didn't know, Wilda and I were at the same church here in Fredericksburg. She now lives in another city, but she took me under her wing. Wilda did. She introduced me to quilt shops, introduced me to quilting retreats. So Wilda and I go way back. Right, Wilda? All right, ladies. I'll share more later, but any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Send me an email. I'd love to hear from you. All right, ladies. See you next time for another Quilt Conversations Live. It's been a wonderful time to be with you again. Wilda says yes. Oh, thank you, Lori. All right. Oh, and Lori reminds us August 15th is our next meeting. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. 7 p.m. All right. Bye, ladies.